Boba Fett, the man who started it all, the most notorious and famous bounty hunter in the galaxy, started life as an unaltered clone of Jango Fett and was raised as his son. Unlike the countless Republic clone troopers, Boba aged at a normal rate and was personally trained by his father Jango in Mandalorian combat techniques. Even as a child, Boba displayed impressive combat skills and was even able to pilot the Slave One himself. However, his life took a tragic turn when he witnessed his father's death at the hands of Mace Windu during the Battle of Geonosis. From that moment on, Boba was consumed by revenge and the desire to carve his own legacy. During the Clone Wars, young Boba formed a crew with notorious bounty hunters such as Aurra Sing and Bossk, who took him under their wing. Alongside them, he attempted to get his revenge on Windu. Though his plans ultimately failed, it did show how skillful he was despite his young age, and he was imprisoned on Krrsantan for it. It was there that he first got to know Cad Bane, whom he started to form a distant relationship with. After being released from prison, he built his first bounty hunter syndicate with a base on Tatooine, with various different bounty hunters working for him. At some point, he was able to recover his father's armor as well as the Slave One from Hondo Ohnaka, who had been keeping it for him as a favor for his father. Around the same time, he also started to have frequent bounty hunter missions alongside Cad Bane, whom he learned a lot from. Although they did fall out at some point, which led to Boba's signature dent in his helmet. He also came under the wing of Jabba the Hutt as a favor to Jango, who had helped him to kill his rival Gardulla the Hutt. Thus, Boba's experience kept growing as he was able to take on more and more missions. Over time, Fett built a reputation as one of the galaxy's most feared bounty hunters, and by the time of the Galactic Empire, Boba was known as the bounty hunter to hire if you wanted results. This reputation made him a favorite of Darth Vader, who often hired Boba for various missions. One mission saw him lead a portion of the 501st against a clone rebellion on Tipoca City. In another instance, Boba found himself in a duel to the death against Vader after he decided that he wanted to keep a box that Vader had hired him to get. He barely survived the encounter with Vader, but did land a few critical hits on the Dark Lord. However, this incident didn't stop Vader from hiring him. Most prominently, Boba was hired to hunt down Han Solo for the Empire, a smuggler he had frequent encounters with already in the past and had grown to dislike quite a lot. He followed Solo to Cloud City and watched as he was frozen in carbonite before delivering him to Jabba for the bounty on his head. When Solo's friend eventually tried to rescue him from Jabba the Hutt's palace, they were swiftly captured. After Leia unfroze Solo, she was forced into servitude as Jabba's slave. At one point, the crime lord sent her to Boba Fett's quarters to entertain the bounty hunter. However, although his reputation was that of a ruthless killer, he was bound by his own moral code and refused. Still, he did not send Leia back, as doing so would have insulted Jabba. Instead, the two spent the night debating the rebellion's cause and the Empire's rule. When a conversation grew heated, Fett abruptly ended the argument and fell asleep on the floor, leaving Leia to sleep in his bed. Fett remained alert, but found amusement in watching Jabba's reaction when Luke faced off against the Rancor, especially as Luke was able to kill it. After that, he accompanied Jabba to the Sarlacc pit to watch the rebel heroes be devoured by the Sarlacc. As the prisoners were led to their doom, Fett considered the massive bounty on Skywalker's head. However, Jabba refused to entertain negotiations as Luke had killed his prized Rancor, and there would be no bargaining. Frustrated, but without a viable alternative, Fett prepared for the execution. When Luke initiated his daring escape, Fett joined Jabba's guards in attempting to stop him. As he was completely focused on capturing the Jedi, Fett failed to notice Han Solo, who was still suffering from hibernation sickness. In his disoriented state, Solo accidentally struck Fett's jetpack with a wild swing of his staff, triggering it. The malfunctioning pack sent the bounty hunter hurling against Jabba's sail barge before he tumbled helplessly into the Sarlacc's maw. For years, fans believed Boba had perished in the belly of the Sarlacc. However, of course, the fan favorite wouldn't stay dead in this fashion. In the current canon storyline, he spectacularly returned in The Mandalorian Season 2. It is revealed that Boba escaped the Sarlacc pit and was rescued and taken in by a Tusken raider tribe. Instead of returning to his old ways, Boba adapted to the Tuskens' lifestyle, learning their culture and eventually becoming one of them. When his new family was wiped out by the Pike Syndicate, he vowed to rebuild his life, not as a lone bounty hunter, but as a leader. He then takes over Jabba the Hutt's former empire, ruling as a daimyo in Mos Espa. In the expanded universe, Boba escapes the pit and is left for dead in the desert. His armor was stripped off him by Jawas, but the bounty hunter Dengar, who had been searching for valuable scraps at the sail barge's demise spot, found him and nourished him back to health. This led to the two bounty hunters forming a close friendship, with Boba even becoming the best man at Dengar's wedding. During this time, he kept going after the bounty hunter business, taking on several jobs. During the Yuuzhan Vong invasion, he became the leader of Mandalore, being a critical faction in the fight against them, and even training the Jedi Jacen Solo in the Mandalorian combat forms. That sums it up for Boba's story. Which version of his story do you prefer? And now, let's talk LEGO. Boba Fett has had multiple LEGO minifigure versions over the years, but one of the most legendary is the 2003 Cloud City Boba. This figure is so rare that it regularly sells for over $1,500, making it one of the holy grails of the LEGO Star Wars collectors. One day, man. One day I'll get one. Jango Fett, the father of Boba, was most famously the clone template for the entire Grand Army of the Republic. But who was Jango before he became the clone template? Jango was born on Conquered Dawn, growing up alongside his sister. His father, a journeyman protector, sheltered the Mandalorian leader Jaster Meriel and his true Mandalorians when the Mandalorian Civil War erupted against Tor Vizsla's Death Watch. When the war reached their home, Death Watch attacked, murdering Fett's parents and abducting his sister. Jango managed to escape and was rescued by Meriel, who took him in and trained him as a Mandalorian warrior. His adoptive father Meriel, however, dies later during the war due to the betrayal, which leads Jango to become the new Mandalore, the leader of the Mandalorians. The turning point in the war came when Death Watch were able to convince the Jedi to help them in their cause against the true Mandalorians. The Jedi, under the command of Master Dooku, went on to defeat the true Mandalorians. Despite Jango single-handedly killing 6 Jedis during the battle, all of his friends and warriors perished during the battle. Death Watch had won the Mandalorian Civil War. He was captured and sold into slavery, but that didn't stop him from plotting against Death Watch. He eventually escaped and killed Tor Vizsla in one-on-one battle, but was left with nothing as all his friends had died. Cutting ties with his Mandalorian heritage, Fett became a bounty hunter and quickly rose to prominence as one of the galaxy's best. Jango was known as an instinctive and ruthless bounty hunter, but beneath his hardened exterior, he had a soft spot for the few people he truly cared about. However, his primary motivation was money, and his loyalty belonged to the highest bidder. His growing reputation caught the attention of Darth Tyrannus, who was seeking a clone template for the Grand Army. To test Fett's abilities, Tyrannus placed a bounty on his former Jedi apprentice, Kamari Vosa. Fett successfully eliminated Vosa, proving his skill, especially against Jedi. Impressed by Fett's and recalling his past success during the Mandalorian Civil War, Tyrannus deemed him the perfect choice for the cloning project. Understanding the potential impact of this project, Fett accepted. However, he made one personal request: one clone to be produced without genetic modifications. A son and apprentice who would carry on Jaster Meriel's legacy and restore the Mandalorian way. His request was granted, and thus Boba Fett was born. On Kamino, he not only served as the template, but also helped construct the training plans for the clones as well as becoming a military consultant. Some first-generation ARC troopers were even personally trained by Jango. During this time, he still went on various bounty hunting jobs, but frequently went back to Kamino to oversee the clones' development. Fett was known to follow a personal moral code that he considered honorable. This code guided his actions throughout his career and influenced how he raised his son. Boba adhered to these principles as well when choosing missions, and years later, Hondo Ohnaka would use Jango's sense of honor to convince Boba to reveal the location of Aurra Sing and Bossk's hostages, ensuring their rescue. When Obi-Wan Kenobi tracked him to Kamino, Jango held his own in a short fight before escaping to Geonosis. When the fight erupted in the Geonosis arena, Jango fought alongside the Separatists, even taking down Jedi Council member Coleman Trebor. However, this would be his last Jedi kill, as his downfall came when he faced Mace Windu. After a faulty jetpack left him grounded, Jango was swiftly decapitated by the Jedi Master, ending his reign as the galaxy's top bounty hunter and leaving behind his son Boba. What a cool backstory and character. I really wished we would see his story fleshed out more on the big screen. There's so much more potential here. But counting on Disney to do that in a fulfilling way might be just as big an ask as getting a Rancor to go on a diet. Let me know who you prefer, Boba or Jango. Also, like the video please, and help it in the algorithm to let everyone gain the knowledge on these bounty hunters. Cad Bane is probably one of the most beloved characters to come out of the Clone Wars. Born on the planet Duro around 62 BBY, Cad Bane eventually rose to prominence as a bounty hunter. Early in his career, he was mentored by Jango Fett for a brief time, to whom he owed several favors. Over time, Bane established himself as one of the galaxy's most notorious hunters. At one point, he even worked alongside Darth Maul on one mission to hunt down some Jedi. Following Jango Fett's untimely death at the start of the Clone Wars, Bane emerged as one of the galaxy's top bounty hunters. He took on high-profile contracts from powerful factions such as the CIS and the Hutt clan. Bane also acquired a loyal yet frequently mistreated techno-service droid, Todo 360. Bane was known as cold, calculating, and as the hunter with the fastest draw in the galaxy. He was ruthless and cared little for the sinister agendas of his employees, no matter if they were Darth Sidious or the Hutts. Over the course of the war, he became an expert at taking down clone troopers, a skill he took great pride in. He didn't care what the job was, as long as the payment was right, be it kidnapping children or killing Jedi. Though he preferred working alone, he was more than capable of leading teams when necessary. Bane also had a few personal quirks. He had a strong preference for wide-brimmed hats, and he often chewed toothpicks and condescendingly referred to others as son or little lady. Throughout the Clone Wars, Bane undertook missions that would have pushed even the most skilled bounty hunters to their limits. He was involved in taking a holocron out of the Jedi Temple, a task deemed impossible by most. He took the Senate hostage on Krrsantan to trade for the release of Zero the Hutt, and even went up against legendary Jedi like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and Ahsoka on several occasions. He was known as the best Jedi killer and equipped himself with breathing tubes to counter force chokes and rocket boots to match the ability of the Jedi. Bane was also a cunning strategist, frequently outmaneuvering Jedi and rivals alike. Bane even successfully kidnapped Chancellor Palpatine in a convoluted plan on Naboo, but was then detained as it turned out to be a setup by the Jedi, which even the distrustful Bane didn't foresee. Towards the end of the Clone Wars, Cad Bane took Boba Fett under his wing, mentoring him in the ways of bounty hunting as a way to repay Jango Fett. As one of several legendary outlaws who shaped Boba's early years, Bane taught him valuable skills but offered little in the way of kindness or respect. Despite training Boba, Bane had no fondness for him and subjected him to harsh, even abusive treatment. He instilled in Boba a ruthless philosophy, teaching him to look out only for himself and view anything else as a liability. Bane's ruthlessness eventually collided with Boba's code of honor, which resulted in a duel where Boba left Bane scarred, requiring Bane to wear a metal implant on his head. The two grew distant and didn't really cross paths henceforth. During the time of the Empire, Bane continued his profession, seeing the Empire rise and fall. After the fall of the Empire, his ways crossed with Boba yet again, who had become the daimyo of Mos Espa. During a final showdown with his former apprentice, he got the upper hand in the blaster duel by outdrawing Boba. However, Boba used his gaffy stick to stab Bane through the chest, seemingly ending his reign. Man, what a great character. I still remember the chills I got when he suddenly showed up in the Bad Batch. It was so unexpected but perfectly executed. Awesome design, great addition to the universe. Absolutely ruthless and basically irredeemable. Also, his Lego figure from 2022 is probably one of my favorite figures ever made. Embo is easily one of the most unique bounty hunter designs to emerge from the Clone Wars. He's a Kyuzo from the planet Fatrong, and took on a variety of jobs during this time. He was often a part of Sugi's bounty hunter crew, and was also seen with his loyal pet Anuba named Marok. The two made quite a duo, with Marok serving as both an attack dog and a tracker. One of Embo's most impressive feats was his fight against Maul and Savage on Nal Hutta, where he held his own for a short time against Savage but was eventually beaten. His fighting style was also very unique, as he often used his metal hat in combat, using it as a shield, a sled, and even a ranged weapon by giving it his best Captain America impression. His skill was unmatched, as he was extremely agile and faster than any regular human bounty hunter. He was even said to have been only second in skill to Cad Bane. While he worked for dangerous clients, he never seemed to harbor the same level of ruthlessness as someone like Cad Bane, as he even accepted the job to defend the Felucian villagers against pirates. That said, he was still a bounty hunter through and through. He followed the credits, and if that meant taking down Jedi or working for the Hutts, so be it. During the Empire's time, Embo remained a committed bounty hunter throughout its reign. He shows up again during the Battle of Jakku, where he and some other bounty hunters aligned with the New Republic, fighting alongside them in the final battle against Imperial remnants. After the Empire's defeat, Embo and his crew received full pardons and substantial payment from the New Republic. He eventually retired from bounty hunting, settling on Felucia to live out his life as a farmer. Embo's such an underrated bounty hunter. His design was really cool, and the fact that he rarely spoke Basic and instead communicated in Kyuzo only added to his character. His appearances in the Clone Wars were always a treat in my opinion, and he stood out in every battle he took part in. Also, as a fun fact, he was voiced by Dave Filoni himself. Durge was an absolute monster. Let me explain. Unlike humans and most other alien species in the galaxy, Gendai are nearly immortal, with a unique physiology that allows them to regenerate from almost any injury. However, their species is usually rather peaceful. Durge, though, had an uncharacteristic aggression already from a young age and later developed a passion for bounty hunting. His unique physiology, as well as his immense strength and size, allowed him to overpower most opponents. Furthermore, he trained under elite hunters and later learned Mandalorian combat skills from his friend, the Mandalorian Jang. The two seek to enhance their combat abilities even further, thus underwent cybernetic augmentation, which fused them with their armor. Durge gained a lot of pleasure from killing and considered time well spent only if it involved slaughter. During a battle with some Mandalorian warriors on one of their missions, Jang was killed. Henceforth, Durge developed an absolute hatred for Mandalorians. He later fought for the Sith in the New Sith Wars, gaining experience in combating Jedi as well. After the Sith's defeat, he went into hiding, adopting various aliases while amassing wealth through bounty hunting. Around 100 years before the Battle of Naboo, Durge assassinated the reigning Mandalore, but was captured and brutally tortured by the other Mandalorians. Though he eventually escaped, his body required nearly a century to fully regenerate, with 60 years spent buried underground. After that incident, Durge's hatred for the Mandalorians knew no bounds anymore. His mental stability was also questionable, likely due to the countless near-death encounters he endured. The Gendai species also had an inherent predisposition to psychosis, and the brutal torture he suffered at the hands of Mandalorians further spiraled him down the road to insanity. He saw the Republic clone troopers, who were bred from a Mandalorian, as a perfect target for his wrath, swearing to kill as many of them as possible. Durge went on to ally with the Separatists, becoming one of Count Dooku's most terrifying enforcers. He led droid armies, personally slaughtered clone troopers, and even faced off against Obi-Wan Kenobi. This could be seen in the 2003 Clone Wars micro-series, where he took on an entire squad of ARC troopers before engaging Obi-Wan in a duel. When Kenobi seemingly killed him, Durge morphed into a nightmarish mass of tendrils, overwhelming the Jedi before finally being obliterated from the inside. But even that wasn't the end, as his Gendai biology meant he even survived that, but needed a lot of time to regenerate. Towards the end of the Clone Wars, Durge's paths crossed with Anakin and Obi-Wan yet again. In that battle, Durge at first easily overpowered Skywalker, hurling him through a hangar blast door. However, Skywalker retaliated by using the Force to hurl a barrage of explosives at him, severely damaging the bounty hunter and tearing off his helmet. Enraged beyond reason, Durge fell into a mindless fury, which Skywalker quickly exploited. Using the Force, he trapped Durge inside an escape pod and guided it straight into Maramir's star, supposedly ending the life of Durge for good. He was also introduced into the Disney canon through the Dr. Aphra comic series, where he's said to be a bounty hunter who took a lot of pride in his abilities of basically being invincible and unkillable. But that's all we know about him there. Greedo is, funnily enough, the first bounty hunter we ever see on screen. He worked for Jabba the Hutt, chased after bounties, and talked a big game, but let's be honest, his legacy boils down to one infamous scene in A New Hope. You know the one.
Yes, I bet you have.
And thus, Greedo went from being a minor thug to one of the most debated characters in Star Wars history, thanks to the endless Han shot first controversy. In the original 1977 release, Han clearly shot Greedo before he could fire. But over the years, George Lucas kept tweaking the scene, adding an awkward blaster shot from Greedo that somehow missed from 2 feet away. The most funny edit came in 2019 when Greedo randomly shouted "McClunky" before getting blasted. Why did George add this? No one knows, but it has since become a meme in the Star Wars community. Outside of A New Hope, Greedo didn't do much. He was born on Rhodia, and his father was also a bounty hunter, thus he followed in his footsteps. His family eventually moved to Tatooine. As a kid, he was already known for a bad temper and even got into a fight with young Anakin in a deleted scene as he accused Anakin of cheating after his pod race win. Anakin obviously left Tatooine and Greedo stayed behind. Greedo then started hanging out more and more with different thugs in Jabba's palace, gambling the day away, becoming a small-time criminal and thief. During the Clone Wars, he also showed up briefly on Coruscant to capture Baron Papanoida's daughters, but failed that mission in the end. Greedo was known for his social ineptitude, which led many to consider him as not very bright. However, by the time of the Clone Wars, he had begun to develop a better grasp of bounty hunting, modeling his demeanor after seasoned hunters. With each job, Greedo gained confidence, and by the time he took on the contract for Han Solo, he was noticeably less excitable and far less prone to complaining. Despite this improvement, he was still prone to amateur mistakes, which eventually led to his death. He was also a hero character in DICE's 2015 Battlefront. There, they had a funny trait for him. With every kill he got a confidence booster that would enhance his damage and give him better weapons, kinda modeling how he was acting in real life. Funnily enough, he was arguably the strongest hero character in hero combat. In my prime days, I could literally fold hero versus villains lobbies by myself with Greedo. Thus, he always has a soft spot in my heart ever since. RIP Battlefront 2015, for sure my favorite gaming memories. Bossk was a Trandoshan bounty hunter whose name literally meant devour your prey. After hatching from his egg, he devoured all his unhatched siblings, making his father very proud of him. As was common for Trandoshans, Bossk started becoming a hunter by hunting Wookiees. Proving himself rather effective, he started accepting other bounty hunting jobs and quickly grew a name for himself, and got accepted into the Bounty Hunters Guild. Like many Trandoshans, Bossk was driven by his belief in the Scorekeeper, a deity who awarded points for each successful kill. The more challenging the prey, the greater the reward. Bossk was notoriously controlling with his partners, often turning on them when they were no longer useful, sometimes even killing them. He preferred working alone, relying on his own skills and instincts rather than trusting others. During the Clone Wars, he found himself often working and mentoring a young Boba Fett, whom he grew quite fond of and even became his bodyguard during a short imprisonment on Coruscant. He continued working with Boba on several occasions, even after the fall of the Republic, although they did grow distant over time and Bossk started to grow a hatred for Boba. Throughout his career, he had encounters with the likes of Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and Chewbacca, whom he had a personal rivalry with. Due to his reputation, he was also assigned to track down the Millennium Falcon by Darth Vader. Years after the Battle of Endor, Bossk eventually retired from bounty hunting. In both DICE Battlefront games, you can see Bossk hunting mode where he can activate a thermal vision, showing his natural skills as a hunter in full display. Also, he was incredibly overpowered in the 2015 Battlefront, where almost every half-decent player was able to rack up 100-plus kills per game rather easily, and it still gives me PTSD, but also joy when thinking about it. Before IG-11 was ever a thing, there was IG-88. However, this assassin droid wasn't just another bounty hunter droid. IG-88 was a sentient killing machine that hated organic life. As one of 4 identical IG-88 units, IG-88A, B, C, and D, IG-88A gained independence shortly after activation and slaughtered his creators. He then uploaded his consciousness into his 3 duplicates, linking them all together as one mind, and set out on the quest to wipe all organic beings from the galaxy and starting a droid revolution. To initiate their droid revolution, the IG-88 units traveled to Mechas 3, a droid manufacturing world. They quickly seized control of the sparsely populated planet, secretly reprogramming all newly produced droids to serve their cause. To divert suspicion, IG-88B took on a bounty hunting career, becoming the public face of the group, while IG-88A remained on Mechas 3 overseeing production. IG-88B proved himself to be an extremely capable bounty hunter, even being referred to as the second best bounty hunter behind Boba Fett. IG-88B was known for taking high-profile bounty contracts to create as much widespread destruction as possible, to mislead the Imperials from discovering Mechas 3. He also answered Darth Vader's call to hunt down Han Solo. Despite the Empire's general dismantle-on-sight policy for assassin droids, Vader was willing to overlook the risk in favor of securing Solo. While aboard the Executor, IG-88B exploited the opportunity to secretly download classified Imperial files, including details on the second Death Star, which he transmitted back to IG-88A before departing. Determined to eliminate the competition, IG-88B planted a tracker on Slave 1 and pursued Boba Fett to Bespin. However, Fett anticipated the droid's move, luring him into an ambush deep within Cloud City. As IG-88B stepped into a trap, 4 remotely activated ion cannons fired upon him, disabling his systems. Fett then followed up with a shoulder-mounted ion blast, knocking the droid to the floor. Fett went on to remove IG-88B's own concussion grenades and place them inside the droid's chassis. Moments later, IG-88B was torn apart from the inside. By 3 ABY, the other 2 IG-88 units had been destroyed as well by Boba in separate encounters, leaving IG-88A as the sole surviving model. Despite this setback, IG-88A managed to infiltrate the second Death Star's computer core due to the plans he got from IG-88B, uploading his consciousness into the battle station. With control of the galaxy's most powerful weapon within his grasp, he was moments away from activating a signal that would summon all sentient programmed droids to his command. However, before he could act, the second Death Star was obliterated by the Rebel Alliance during the Battle of Endor, wiping out IG-88A and his droid revolution in an instant. Zuckuss, a Gand bounty hunter, was often referred to as the Uncanny One due to his extraordinary ability to track his prey. His reputation as an elite tracker stemmed from his innate force sensitivity, which granted him brief glimpses into the future and an acute awareness of others' intentions toward himself. This rare talent made him highly sought after by various factions, including the Hutts and the Bounty Hunters Guild. Zuckuss was known for a rather cautious approach to bounty hunting that set him apart from his more reckless peers. While many hunters rushed into battle without hesitation, he preferred to assess the situation and consider his options. However, when cornered or provoked, he could erupt into sudden and brutal violence. Although he was a capable solo hunter, Zuckuss preferred working with others, partnering with over a dozen different bounty hunters throughout his career. He was always open to learning from his allies, using their expertise to refine his own skills. Throughout his long career, Zuckuss was best known for his partnership with the droid 4-LOM. Together, they formed an almost unstoppable team. Zuckuss's uncanny tracking ability complemented 4-LOM's methodical and analytical approach perfectly. Although their partnership initially formed to satisfy their Hutt employers, Zuckuss grew to genuinely respect 4-LOM's skills, forging a strong bond with the droid. During one mission, Zuckuss's respirator was damaged, forcing him to inhale oxygen, a substance toxic to Gand. The exposure severely damaged his lungs, leaving him in critical condition. Desperate to afford a costly lung replacement, he and 4-LOM accepted a risky job from the Rebel Alliance, capturing the Imperial Governor Nardix. They succeeded, however, their involvement with the rebellion put them in danger, as it risked drawing the Empire's attention. Despite this, the duo was later hired by Darth Vader to track down the Millennium Falcon. Zuckuss, hiding the severity of his condition during the meeting with Vader, planned to infiltrate the Rebel ranks under the guise of a rescue mission. By escorting survivors from a downed Rebel transport, they hoped to get close enough to capture Han Solo. However, Zuckuss's health had deteriorated to the point that he was near death. In an unexpected turn, the rebels took pity on him and transported him to a medical facility, where he received the treatment necessary to survive. Grateful for the care he had received, Zuckuss ultimately chose to join the Rebel Alliance. He and 4-LOM briefly worked as covert operatives, even attempting to steal Solo's carbonite-encased body from Boba Fett before it could be delivered to Jabba the Hutt. The mission failed, unfortunately, resulting in 4-LOM's destruction at the hands of Boba. Though Zuckuss managed to repair his droid companion, he was forced to perform a complete memory wipe. This erased 4-LOM's previous loyalty, fundamentally changing their relationship. After completing one final job together, the two parted ways. Zuckuss relocated to the Outer Rim, but remained sympathetic to the rebellion. As the New Republic rose to power, he shifted his focus to hunting down Imperial remnants and war criminals. Despite his success, Zuckuss struggled with significant mental health issues, including schizophrenia and multiple personality disorder. However, despite his later struggles, Zuckuss became a revered figure on his homeworld of Gand, inspiring a new generation of Gand bounty hunters to seek their fortunes across the galaxy. His Lego figure was also something I had waited for forever. In 2012, I got the Lego UCS Super Star Destroyer. In it, you got Bossk, Dengar, and IG-88, and as I wanted to complete the Bounty Hunter collection, I really needed Zuckuss and 4-LOM. It wasn't until 2019 when we finally got his figure, but trust me when I tell you, I was literally one of the happiest people on Earth when I finally got him and completed my Executor Bounty Hunter squad. 4-LOM was an ambitious LOM series protocol droid who defined his programming to pursue a life of crime. Originally assigned to the luxury liner Quarry Princess, he served as a translator between the ship's wealthy passengers and its central computer. However, finding this work mundane, he gradually developed a taste for theft. Glitches in logic processing and corruption in his personality software due to the Quarry Princess's central computer enabled 4-LOM to override his original programming. Eventually, 4-LOM abandoned his duties entirely, becoming an expert thief and later a bounty hunter. Thanks to further modifications by Jabba the Hutt, 4-LOM was equipped with an array of droid features, combining elements of his original protocol droid design. While he retained his sophisticated communication systems, Jabba the Hutt upgraded him with reinforced body armor. Under Jabba's orders, 4-LOM was paired with the Gand bounty hunter Zuckuss. Initially, 4-LOM saw the partnership as an opportunity to study Zuckuss's unique Findsman tracking abilities, hoping to develop his own sense of intuition. However, over time, the two formed a genuine bond. This loyalty was put to the test when Zuckuss was critically injured after his respirator got damaged. Determined to save his partner, 4-LOM stayed loyally by his side, although the logical path would have been to abandon Zuckuss. When Zuckuss joined the Rebel Alliance, 4-LOM followed, and together they attempted to steal Han Solo's carbonite-encased body from Boba Fett. However, Fett anticipated the ambush and swiftly countered, shooting 4-LOM and leaving him for dead aboard Slave 1. Unbeknownst to Fett, 4-LOM had activated a tracking signal to help Zuckuss and Bossk intercept Slave 1. While hidden in the cargo hold, he repaired himself, but Fett discovered the ruse and cornered him. In the ensuing struggle, 4-LOM managed to disable Slave 1's weapon systems, but suffered severe damage, including a final shot to the head that critically destroyed his verbobrain. Soon after, Zuckuss, Bossk, and other hunters attacked Fett but were defeated, with Zuckuss taken prisoner. Upon reaching Tatooine, Fett tricked his pursuers by disguising Zuckuss and 4-LOM as decoys while he secretly delivered Solo to Jabba the Hutt, successfully securing his payment. Meanwhile, 4-LOM and Zuckuss were left empty-handed. With his verbobrain severely damaged, 4-LOM could only be reactivated through a complete memory wipe. The process erased all traces of his past ambitions and idealism, leaving only his ruthless fourth-degree programming. No longer the same droid, 4-LOM became a cold, emotionless bounty hunter, devoid of any loyalty to Zuckuss. Although they continued working together for a short time, 4-LOM no longer felt the need for a partner and eventually struck out on his own. Both he and Zuckuss distanced themselves from the Rebel Alliance. What a sad end to their rather wholesome partnership. Genuinely, the character development in the expanded universe is just unmatched. Every single character, no matter how little screen time they had, got their own unique backstory, which was carefully crafted with love and care. Dengar, a Corellian human, was raised in the culture of swoop racing and became a successful racer in his youth. Alongside his racing career, he also led a double life as a bounty hunter during the Clone Wars, working with a young Boba Fett and Bossk. Through those missions, Dengar earned a reputation as one of the galaxy's most effective mercenaries. Despite his success, he eventually left bounty hunting to focus on his first passion, swoop racing. His life changed dramatically after a swoop race through the Agrelot Swamp on Corellia, where he suffered grievous injuries at the hands of Han Solo. The crash left Dengar severely wounded, and he was then left to the Empire to conduct experiments on. Imperial scientists rebuilt him as a deadly assassin, outfitting him with advanced cybernetic enhancements and neuroimplants. These modifications dulled his humanity, leaving him with little emotion, making him a killing machine. Dengar served the Empire faithfully for a time, but his loyalty fractured when he was ordered to kill the holy children of Asrat. Sensing their pain and despair, he refused the order and abandoned his post, becoming a freelance gun for hire. After the Battle of Hoth, Dengar was recruited by Darth Vader to hunt down his old rival Han Solo, but he arrived on Cloud City too late. Boba Fett had already claimed the bounty and was en route to Jabba the Hutt. While there, Dengar unexpectedly reunited with Manaroo, a woman from his past. Seeing the emotionless man he had become, Manaroo helped rekindle his lost humanity, awakening emotions he thought were erased by his cybernetic enhancements. Determined to stop Fett, Dengar and Manaroo traveled to Tatooine in a last-ditch effort to reclaim Solo. However, their plan failed, leading to Manaroo's capture. To make matters worse, Fett had been given a separate contract by Jabba to eliminate Dengar. However, instead of killing him, Fett chose to show mercy, leaving Dengar wounded but alive in the Tatooine desert. Eventually, Dengar was rescued by Manaroo, who freed herself after Jabba's death. Fate then brought Dengar and Fett back together. After Boba was swallowed by the Sarlacc, Dengar was the one who found him, barely clinging to life after his escape. Remembering the mercy Fett had once shown him, Dengar repaid the favor by nursing him back to health. This act of kindness forged an unlikely friendship between the two bounty hunters. With Manaroo by his side, Dengar's priorities shifted. They decided to get married, and although Dengar did still do a few jobs alongside Boba, he eventually retired and lived out his life. What a wholesome story, right? Well, now what did Disney do with him? Well, rumors have it he became this cybernetic mess known as Hrothgar Deng, who just wanted to keep hunting forever, and thus altered his appearance even more. Thank God we still have the EU timeline, or else it'd be such a sad reality for all our favorite characters. Either they're dead or messes like Hrothgar Deng in Book of Boba Fett Boba. Also, he was a super fun hero character to play as in the 2015 Battlefront. I'm especially fond of when he first released, where his Hurricane Strike ability was able to one-shot kill Luke Skywalker. Also, he had a kick as his melee attack. Great times. Din Djarin, or more commonly just known as the Mandalorian, is the best thing to come out of the Disney era. If there was ever a bounty hunter to challenge Boba Fett's place as the most iconic Mandalorian, it's probably Mando. Raised as a foundling after being rescued by the Children of the Watch, Din grew up to become one of the most skilled warriors in the galaxy, operating under a strict Mandalorian code in a world where Mandalore had been left as a desolate wasteland by the Empire. Din starts off as a lone hunter working for the Bounty Hunters Guild, collecting bounties for his Mandalorian creed and living by the creed of his people. But everything changed when he was hired by the Empire to retrieve a mysterious target only known as the Child, who turned out to be Grogu. Instead of handing the child over to the remnants of the Empire, Mando chose to protect him, as he saw him as a foundling just like himself, making an entire army of enemies in the process. From that moment on, Din Djarin was no longer just a bounty hunter, he was a father figure and protector of Grogu. He tasked himself to return Grogu to the Jedi, and through different circumstances ended up as the rightful wielder of the Darksaber, making him the potential ruler of Mandalore. Although he doesn't end up being the ruler of Mandalore and leaves this to Bo-Katan, he plays an essential role in taking back Mandalore. The last we see of him is chilling on Navarro with Grogu on some distant house, but with the upcoming Mando and Grogu movie, we'll see their story continue. IG-11 was introduced in the first episode of The Mandalorian, and he instantly left an impact on me. It was the first time that we ever got to see an IG unit in combat, and the way he went about it was absolutely marvelous. His movement was so mechanic, he shot in multiple directions. The dry comments, absolutely perfect character. IG-11 was active during the time of the New Republic era and was affiliated with the Bounty Hunters Guild. He received the bounty to go to Arvala 7 and terminate a Force-sensitive child there. Upon arrival, he found himself outmatched and outgunned by the massive number of Nikto mercenaries present, which led him to team up with Din Djarin. His target was revealed to be Grogu. When Mando refused to let the child be killed, IG-11 attempted to kill the target, as was the order, but was shot in the head by Djarin, rendering him obsolete. But IG-11's story thankfully was over. The Ugnaught Quill reprogrammed him to become a nurse droid. Instead of a cold-blooded killer, IG-11 was now a protector, serving as Grogu's guardian and later as one of Mando's most valuable allies. His most heroic moment came during the final battle of Season 1, where he not only saved the group from certain doom, but also sacrificed himself in a self-destruct explosion to eliminate a squad of stormtroopers. It was a really emotional moment, as I'm certain that everyone in the audience had grown to really like him at this point. IG-11's remains were then put on display on Navarro to honor his sacrifice. His parts were later also used to construct IG-12, a mech suit for Grogu to pilot. However, the suit was eventually destroyed, and so was the legacy of IG-11, showing that Disney just can't stop pissing on the legacy of great characters, even if it's their own ones. Why couldn't they just leave him as a statue? Anyway, moving on. Aurra Sing was a Force-sensitive Paladuvan born on Nar Shaddaa to a spice-addicted mother who was too poor to raise her. She briefly became part of the Jedi Order, but eventually left. She was then trained as an assassin by Anzadi agents and became a feared bounty hunter. Sing worked for anyone who paid her, forming alliances with figures like Jango Fett and engaging in a relationship with pirate Hondo Ohnaka. On Nar Shaddaa, she collaborated with Cad Bane alongside the Sith Lord Darth Maul as well. Due to her skills, she soon made a name for herself and got contracts from Jabba the Hutt as well. This led to her witnessing firsthand Anakin's pod racing win on Tatooine. During the Clone Wars, Aurra worked alongside Boba Fett, training him and leading a crew that included Bossk and Castus. She encouraged Boba's vendetta against Mace Windu and even helped him attempt to assassinate the Jedi Master. However, her recklessness and cold-blooded nature ultimately led to her almost being killed by Ahsoka and Boba distancing himself from her. Throughout the Clone Wars, she took part in several high-profile missions, including the Senate hostage at the command of Cad Bane, as well as a failed assassination attempt on Senator Padme Amidala. In the EU timeline, she kept working after the rise of the Empire, even being hired by Darth Vader. In the Disney canon, her story came to an abrupt end in Solo: A Star Wars Story, where Lando casually mentioned that Tobias Beckett had killed her. Sugi was a female Zabrek from Iridonia who became a skilled bounty hunter and mercenary. She's often seen piloting the Halo, an SS-54 assault ship. During the Clone Wars, Sugi took on various contracts, including the defense of a Felucian farming village from Hondo Ohnaka's pirate gang. There, she led a team of fellow mercenaries, including Embo, and she fought alongside Jedi Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka to repel the pirates. Though her team suffered losses, they successfully defended the village, after which Sugi transported the Jedi back to Republic space. She was also present as a bodyguard for the Hutt Council on Nal Hutta, when Darth Maul and Death Watch attacked, even going up shortly against Maul before being beaten. Sugi seemed both compassionate and ruthless, showing genuine care for her comrades in arms while showing little mercy to her enemies. While she worked for pay, Sugi never placed profits above principles. She accepted lower fees from impoverished clients and remained loyal to those who hired her, refusing bribes to switch sides. Despite her general distrust of Jedi, viewing them as hypocritical warriors rather than peacekeepers, she maintained a professional respect for them. Rako Hardeen, known as the Marksman of the Conquered Dawn, was a human bounty hunter and expert marksman for the Mandalorian world of Conquered Dawn. He was hired to assassinate Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, seemingly succeeding in the depths of Coruscant's underworld. However, unbeknownst to Hardeen, his employers were actually the Jedi Order, who staged Kenobi's death as part of an elaborate plan to send him undercover. After carrying out the supposed assassination, Hardeen celebrated at Trooping's cantina before being contacted by his mysterious employers. Soon after, he was captured by Kenobi and Mace Windu. Using a facial transformation program and a voice emulator, Kenobi assumed Hardeen's identity and infiltrated a separatist plot to abduct Supreme Chancellor Palpatine at the Festival of Light on Naboo. It is unknown what happened to the real Hardeen, but rumors have it he was transported to an off-world prison. Krrsantan, also known as Black Krrsantan, was a fearsome Wookiee bounty hunter whose career spanned from the era of the Galactic Empire into the New Republic. Originally from Kashyyyk, he was forced to flee and thus became a disgrace to his people. He then became a gladiator trained by the Zonti brothers. Krrsantan soon realized the true nature of what he had signed up for, and after enduring brutal training as a gladiator, swore a life debt against the Zonti brothers, vowing to make them suffer as he had. Sometime later, Krrsantan became a bounty hunter. He frequently worked for Jabba the Hutt and even had a short battle against Obi-Wan Kenobi, earning himself a lasting scar from the Jedi's lightsaber. Eventually, he encountered the Zonti brothers again during the auction of Rrr, seizing the opportunity to capture them. Krrsantan took the Zonti brothers back to their own gladiatorial pits, ensuring they met the same fate they had inflicted upon him. During the Galactic Civil War, he was even hired by Darth Vader to track down an agent of Emperor Palpatine, working alongside Boba Fett. Following Jabba's death and the collapse of his criminal empire, Krrsantan was employed by Jabba's cousins, the twins, who sought to reclaim their late relative's throne from Boba Fett. Tasked with assassinating Fett, Krrsantan launched an attack on Boba but was ultimately captured. However, when the twins abandoned their claim to Tatooine, Krrsantan was freed and later recruited by Fett himself. He fought alongside Fett's forces in the battle against the Pike Syndicate, playing a key role by tanking what felt like 100 shots and ultimately securing victory for Boba's new empire. Boushh is not Princess Leia. He was originally a skilled and successful UB's bounty hunter active around the rise of the Galactic Empire. Operating as a freelancer, Boushh traveled from system to system in search of work, wearing a custom suit of UB's armor, crafted from layered survival materials and an optically enhanced helmet that both protected him and concealed his identity. Though he never officially joined the Bounty Hunters Guild, Boushh frequently worked alongside its members. Over time, Boushh became primarily associated with Black Sun, the galaxy's largest criminal syndicate. By 3 ABY, Boushh had continued working for Black Sun, capturing a high-profile target for the syndicate. However, he overstepped his bounds when he attempted to negotiate a higher payment with Prince Xizor. Viewing him as more of a liability than an asset, Xizor ordered his personal assassin droid to eliminate Boushh. Following his death, Boushh's distinctive armor fell into the hands of the Rebel Alliance. It was later used by Leia Organa on her infiltration mission in Jabba's palace. In canon, his story plays out a bit differently. There, he ambushes Leia and the gang, is swiftly disarmed and immobilized. Leia then uses his armor to infiltrate Jabba's palace. Fennec Shand entered the bounty hunter scene shortly after the Empire's rise, taking on high-profile contracts and proving her worth early on as she was quite successful. One of her first notable assignments was a bounty placed on the young clone Omega, a mission that led her into conflict with the legendary Cad Bane. Though the job ended without Omega's capture, it solidified Shand's status as a formidable player in the underworld, as she was able to hold off Bane long enough to a stalemate. She then continued working for influential syndicates, including the Hutt clan. However, with the Empire's destruction and the rise of the New Republic, many of her employees were arrested, leaving her without powerful allies or steady work. Branded a fugitive, she fled to the Outer Rim and went into hiding on Tatooine. Now being hunted herself, Shand evaded capture until she was tracked by Mandalorian bounty hunter Din Djarin and an ambitious rookie, Toro Calican. The two eventually bested her and took her captive. Attempting to negotiate her release, Shand persuaded Calican to betray Djarin, but before she could act, Calican shot her and left her dead in the desert. She was later discovered by Boba Fett, who saved her life by modifying her body with cybernetic enhancements. Indebted to Fett, Shand became his trusted ally and partner. Together, Shand and Fett travel to the planet Tython to reclaim Fett's lost armor from Din Djarin. In exchange, they agreed to help Djarin rescue his foundling, Grogu, from the Imperial remnant led by Moff Gideon. After aiding in the successful takeover of Gideon's light cruiser and Grogu's rescue, Shand and Fett parted ways with Djarin and returned to Tatooine, where they seized Jabba the Hutt's former palace, laying the foundation for their new criminal empire. She was instrumental during Boba's rise to daimyo of Mos Espa and accompanied him as his bodyguard. Other than that, she's a pretty bland character. Zam Wesell is probably best remembered as the bounty hunter who gets shot by Jango, but let's reverse her story first. Zam Wesell was a shape-shifting Claudite bounty hunter from the planet Zolan. In her natural form, she had a reptilian appearance, but she frequently disguised herself as a human woman with short bronze-colored hair. She was trained as a warrior of her homeworld, but was banished due to differing viewpoints. She thus, through different stages, found herself in the bounty hunting business. During her career, Zam Wesell encountered Jango Fett while aiding him in a mission. Their partnership grew over time, leading to several joint missions as her shape-shifting abilities proved very useful in various contracts. During one mission, Zam uncovered a plot to destroy Krrsantan and convinced Fett to help prevent the disaster. In 22 BBY, Count Dooku hired Fett to assassinate Senator Amidala, who subcontracted the job to Wesell. Her initial bombing attempt failed, killing only a decoy, so she resorted to venomous arthropods, but Anakin and Obi-Wan foiled the plan. Kenobi tracked Wesell, leading to a speeder chase through Coruscant. Skywalker forced her to crash, and she was captured shortly thereafter. Before she could reveal any information, Fett killed her with a toxic dart to protect his identity. By the way, I never understood why she didn't use her shape-shifting ability in the bar on Coruscant to get away from the Jedi. Like, why not change to the Death Stick guy and trick them like that? Anyway, moving on. Asajj Ventress was originally introduced as a Sith assassin. Ventress was born on Dathomir and, through different ways, got taken in by Count Dooku. He trained her in the ways of the Sith, but eventually betrayed her on request of Darth Sidious. She survived the ploys set by Dooku, and after failing to get her revenge on Dooku, turned to a life as a bounty hunter. She is seen on one mission with a young Boba, Bossk, and Dengar to protect a valuable asset on a moving train. She also shows up on Coruscant and talks about taking in Ahsoka for a bounty, but ends up being assaulted by Barriss and force-choked by Anakin. She went on to keep doing different bounty hunter missions, even after the rise of the Empire. At one point, she crossed paths with Omega and the Bad Batch, trying to warn them and help them, showing that she had changed her path and was trying to do better in the galaxy. Her ultimate fate remains unknown. That is the canon storyline, at least. In the EU, though, the Dark Disciples book, which was based on an unfinished episode of the Clone Wars, would have had her story play out differently. There, she eventually crossed paths with Quinlan Vos, who was on a mission to assassinate Count Dooku. The two formed an unexpected romantic connection, and Ventress began to believe she could find redemption. However, Vos was eventually turned to the dark side, forcing Ventress to risk everything to save him. In a final confrontation with Dooku, she sacrificed herself to save Vos, proving that despite all the darkness, she still had a good heart. The far superior story, in my opinion. Now, for all the following bounty hunters, we'll just speed run through them as there isn't much to talk about, or I don't care about them too much. Serapis was a small, sorry male bounty hunter who used a mechanical suit for battle. He was a friend of Sugi and helped defend a Felucian farming village from the Onaka gang, and later assisted in recruiting Chewbacca on Waska. Lazrazi was a Thelan bounty hunter active during the Clone Wars and a member of the Krait's Claw Syndicate alongside Boba and Bossk. She's known for using the grappling boa to fight. After the Clone Wars, she founded the Razi Syndicate. Sabine Wren is a former Mandalorian warrior turned rebel. Before joining the Ghost Rebel crew, she was in the Imperial Academy before leaving and then was shortly active as a bounty hunter alongside her friend Ketsu Onyo as well. Her CV sure has all of it in it. Former Imperial, Mandalorian, bounty hunter, rebel freedom fighter, and now Jedi as well. Ketsu Onyo is a female Mandalorian bounty hunter from Sukkot who worked for Black Sun before the Battle of Yavin. Initially, she helped Sabine Wren escape the Imperial Academy and became her bounty hunting partner until their relationship soured. Later, her paths with Sabine crossed again, where they ended up helping each other. Ketsu ended up helping the Ghost Crew in the liberation of Lothal and participated in the final battle against Thrawn. Moralo Ival was a male Fendian criminal mastermind and serial killer active in the final years of the Republic era. Sociopathic from a young age, he began his criminal career as a child by murdering his mother, and went on to commit multiple killings. He's not a bounty hunter himself, but designed the box to test bounty hunters' skill during the Clone Wars. Daron, a Parwan bounty hunter known for his electric field-producing body. Due to this ability, he was able to pass through electrical fields. He was recruited by Dooku to compete in the box. After surviving the challenge, he becomes part of Cad Bane's team for the mission to kidnap Palpatine, but is ultimately captured. Bolduga and Unka were two Ithorian bounty hunter brothers. They became rather famous as being a great duo, thus were invited to compete in the box. There, Bolduga is shot by Cad Bane as Bane simply wanted his hat. Anka then died in the box, leaving behind a rather sad legacy for the unstoppable duo. Jakoli was a Rodian bounty hunter who was known for never sparing his prey from death. He participated in the box challenge and perished there. Kira Swan was a female Weequay pirate who participated in the box. She was said to have won the Obsidian Sphere, a prestige bounty hunter competition, twice. She was impaled by a laser in the box. Mantu was a Selkath that was also invited to the box. Dooku says that him being there is a dishonor to his peaceful people, giving them a bad reputation. He then proceeds to die during the first round. Sinrich, a Snivian bounty hunter, active and was the mastermind behind the invention of the holographic disguise matrix, which was later used by the group to capture Palpatine. Because of his invention, he was invited to participate in the box, where he got killed. Twazi was a Frank bounty hunter known for her acrobatic skills, which are said to have once impressed Chancellor Valorum. During the Clone Wars, she was recruited by Count Dooku to participate in the box. After surviving trials in the box, she infiltrated the Festival of Light using a holographic disguise, but was caught by Jedi Generals Mace Windu and Anakin Skywalker. Sixtat, feared as the Outlands Butcher, was a Sakian bounty hunter. He earned his infamous title through his brutal and deadly methods, leaving a trail of slaughtered prey in his wake. He was thus invited to the box and also perished there. Amanaman, an Amani headhunter who worked as a bounty hunter for Jabba the Hutt. After Solo was delivered to the palace, Amanaman stood near him in Jabba's palace and later watched a performance that ended with Ula being fed to the Rancor. When Princess Leia, disguised as Boushh, attempted to free Solo, Amanaman took part in the trap set for her, helping to block her escape. Brainy was a male Cinetine. He was an associate of Greedo during the Clone Wars to capture the Pantoran King's daughter. Brick was a Cynnitine bounty hunter who, alongside his partner LS, was hired by the Galactic Republic to train clone cadets on Kamino. During the Clone Wars, he held the rank of Master Chief and can be seen being rather harsh and critical of Domino Squad. LS was an Arcana bounty hunter who was recruited by the Galactic Republic to serve as a drill instructor for the clones. While stationed at Tipoca City, LS collaborated with Brick and seemed more compassionate than Brick. C-21 Highsinger was a combat droid bounty hunter active during the Clone Wars. He belonged to Boba's Crate's Claw crew and helped defend the train during their mission together. Castus was a Klatooinian bounty hunter who teamed up with Aurra Sing, Bossk, and Boba Fett during the Clone Wars to assassinate Mace Windu. Eventually, Aurra Sing killed him at a bar on Florum as he tried to sell them out. Fong Du was a Nautolan bounty hunter and a friend of Castus. He witnessed Castus being shot through the holo projector and later reveals the location of Aurra Sing to Plo Koon and Ahsoka. Cato Parasiti was a Claudette bounty hunter just like Zam Wesell. She was hired by Cad Bane and was accomplice to stealing a holocron from the Jedi Temple's archives. To accomplish this, she first impersonated the late Jedi Knight Ord Innocence and later assumed the identity of Jocasta Nu. Although she successfully carried out the mission, Parasiti was eventually caught and imprisoned. Chata Hioki was a Selkath who, alongside his companion Robanino, was tasked with intimidating Senator Amidala and Organa to alter their votes on a Senate deal. They failed the mission, though. Robanino was a Petrolian bounty hunter. He was present during the Senate hostage crisis, where he joined forces with Cad Bane and Aurra Sing. Later, Count Dooku employed him to intimidate Republic senators who were trying to block a bill against Chata Hioki. Dans Boren was present in the Mos Eisley Cantina while wearing his white astronaut suit. He worked for Jabba and was said to be an excellent pilot. Jas Pur was a Sakian bounty hunter who is also present in the Mos Eisley Cantina. He's said to be an associate of Han Solo. Jaquil, a Whippet from Tula, worked as a bounty hunter for Jabba. However, he was secretly a spy for Jabba's rival, Lady Valerian, with whom he was romantically involved. He planned to kill Jabba by poisoning his food, but during the rescue attempt of Han Solo, he witnessed the capture of the rebels and Jabba's eventual demise at the Sarlacc pit. Although Jaquil survived the explosion that destroyed Jabba's sail barge, Valerian later placed a bounty on him for not personally killing Jabba, leaving him stranded on Tatooine and ultimately forcing him to join the Bomar Monk Order. Poor guy. Niche is a bounty hunter present in the Mos Eisley Cantina during A New Hope. He's often confused with Greedo, but actually is a different guy. Ront Bernlu was a human pirate and bounty hunter who worked as an enforcer for Jabba the Hutt. He joined Jabba in the search for Han Solo at Docking Bay 94 and was also present in the Mos Eisley Cantina. Rum Sleg is a human bounty hunter and can be seen on Mos Espa during the Phantom Menace. He can also be seen in the stands cheering for Sebulba. Rumi Paramita was a female Frank bounty hunter who helped Sugi and her gang defend the Felucian village. She gets shot by the tank while standing on a roof and dies from the impact. Shahana Lama was a Weequay bounty hunter who helped Cad Bane free Zero the Hutt during the Senate hostage crisis. He also randomly has a Lego figure. Tam Poslo was a former Milvain Authority lawman who became a rogue bounty hunter after being discharged for pursuing the criminal surgeon Cornelius Evazan. He eventually teams up with Shelly Afra's mercenary crew. After a failed deal to capture Evazan, he was ultimately killed by the assassin droid 000. Later on, he was revived by Force-sensitive spores and pursued Afra as an undead vigilante, before being set ablaze during a riot on Milvain. Toro Calican was a bounty hunter who seeks to join the guild. He helps Mando capture Fennec Shand, but is killed after he tries to double-cross Mando and abduct Grogu. Arame Acello was a male Melbu bounty hunter. Frustrated by the numerous political targets assigned to him by the Galactic Empire, he shifted his focus to hunting down violent criminals. He joined Enfy's Nest Cloud Riders gang, becoming a vigilante in the fight against oppression. And that's it. Holy, that took so long to write. Hope you enjoy it, and until next time.